Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Why People Do What They Do, where we have riveting conversations with interesting personalities from various industries. Now today we have Tun Zaki Tun Azmi, former Chief Justice of Malaysia, with us here today. Tun, such a pleasure having you with us here today. Thank you again for agreeing to chat with us. Now Tun, you've had an illustrious career. Tell us a little bit about your background. Have you always wanted to pursue a legal career and eventually becoming Chief Justice of Malaysia back in 2008?
If you go back into history, how I became a lawyer, first instance, I wanted to do economics.
Oh, wow.
My father said, no, you become a lawyer. The reason is that, according to him, worst come to the worst, you can open a small office with one table, one chair, and one clerk, and you can run your legal practice. So that's how I started to become a lawyer. And then if you read my book, No Nonsense, you will find that it was not all success. There was a big failure that I went through, but that taught me a big lesson. And as I tell everybody, after that, I got up, I ran and kept on running, and I'm 73 years old now. Alhamdulillah, I'm still running.
You're still running.
I cannot compete with that 94-year-old man.
Tell us about that big failure. Was that something that you faced when you were starting out in your legal career?
No. I was a student at the University of Singapore as a lawyer. And the standard set by the Singapore University was very high. And I think something like there was 70-80% failures.
Okay.
So I was among those who failed. But thank God, I was given a second opportunity to do law in England.
Okay.
And that's when I did my bar. And I did my bar within less than 3 years that was set for me. And I made a promise to myself when I stepped on the plane to go to the KLM plane to go to England. I made a promise to myself, I will never come back to Malaysia without a qualification. And the moment I was there, it was hard work all through. I worked hard.
Yeah.
I worked hard. And I finished my 3-year, it's not a 3-year, I set myself 3 years to do it, and I completed before 3 years.
Now, Tun, you can proudly say that you have been Chief Justice twice. You were the former Chief Justice of Malaysia, and just last year you were appointed as the Chief Justice of Dubai International Financial Centre Courts. How did this appointment come about? How did you feel about it? Were you surprised by this appointment at all?
The DIFC or the Malaysian?
The Dubai Financial Centre Courts.
I was having a meeting in one of the ministries in Putrajaya. Suddenly, I got a call from one of the judges in Dubai, from the Dubai International Financial Centre Court. Please expect a call from the governor of Dubai International Financial Centre. So, yes, within the hour, he called me up and says, Justice Zaki, I want you to become the Chief Justice of the Dubai International Financial Centre. My mouth dropped. I said, are you sure I can do the job? Of course you can do the job. And that was the same question that I put to Datuk Sri Abdullah Badawi when I was offered to be a judge at the Malaysian Federal Court. I was having a meeting at Makoba with my client UEM at that time. And then I got a call from Paklah, Datuk Sri Abdullah Badawi. And then he was saying something over the phone very softly, which I couldn't hear, I didn't understand. Then he says, where are you? I say, I'm at Makoba. Can you come and see me at Madrid? I say, okay. I left the meeting, went to Madrid. As soon as I got to Madrid, he says, how did you come? I say, I got my car there. And he said, okay, come in my car and ask your car to follow me. I'm going to Melaka. So in the car, he put the proposal to me, or he offered me to become a judge of the federal court. And I was very reluctant. Honestly, I was very reluctant to accept it.
Why was
Because I got a lot of negative matters against me. For example, I was the legal advisor to UMNO. I'm doing my own business.
What business were you doing too?
I was doing a rail track. I'm still doing rail tracking. Rail track. We lay tracks for the train, you know.
Okay.
So I told him, and I gave him about 6 or 7 reasons why I should not be a judge. One of the most important thing is, I told my wife my wife is happy that I'm in the private sector, that I'm not in the public sector, because I was offered to become a judge a few times before that. And in fact, I was even offered to become the Attorney General on one occasion. This can be confirmed by Tan Sri Rais Jatim. I turned them down because I just want to be normal, enjoy my life, go to the kedai mama, drink teh tarik, and sit by the go anywhere I like in my casuals. Nobody
All the little
bothers
joys,
me.
right?
I enjoy that. And at that time, I already had Tan Sri. What more do you want? You got Tan Sri already. And that time, financially, I'm comfortable. I'm not rich. I'm comfortable. So why not? And for every reason that I told him I don't want to become a judge, he countered by another reason. For example, I said, I'm a lawyer for UMNO. You are just a lawyer for UMNO. You're not involved in politics. Are you? No. And then I said, I got investment. Put in a trust company. So he went on and on and on and on. And the trip from Madrid to Ayakroh in Malacca, in his car, his Proton, and it was led by siren motorcycle, police motorcycle, you know. And I was going up and down like that in the car. I say, I'm having headache driving your car. Anyway, when I got there, he just looked at me. So? Just look at me like that. So? I said, what else can I say? The Prime Minister has asked me and I've got reason, so many reasons why you still turn down. So, okay. Kirim salam to your wife.
And that's it.
He got out of the left door of the car. I got out the right door of the car. The people who welcomed him didn't even know I was in the car, I think. I walked back, went to the car, and came back. When I got home, I told my wife. She was very upset. She was very angry with me. So...
Angry for saying yes,
Yes.
to the PM. Okay.
So that's the beginning of how I became a judge at the federal court in Malaysia. And then a few months later, I became President Court of Appeal. And a few months later, after that, I became the Chief Justice. That's how it is.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for the job. I tried to turn down the job, but it was God's will. And we as Muslims believe that if a duty is thrust upon you and not you asking for it, God will help you to perform your duties well. That's what I believe, and I think.
When you became Chief Justice of Malaysia, you actually made history. It was the first time that a father and son had headed a nation's judiciary. So when you became Chief Justice of Malaysia in 2008, how did you feel about that? Did that fact sink upon you? And did you ever wanted to follow your father's footsteps? Did it ever occur to you that this would happen? What was your feeling? What was your thinking?
Going back into history again, when I was in the service for 15 years, I thought I may end up being a judge. When I left the service and went into private practice, I thought that's the end of it. I have no chance to become a judge. But I was offered to become, as I said earlier, I was offered to become a judge 3 times. Twice by Tun Hamid Umar, and then by Tun Yusof Jin. I turned down. Both occasions, 3 or 4 occasions I turned down. And then again, I turned down the offer to become the Attorney General. So I never expected to be where I am now, honestly. I never planned, I don't dream. I just do the best I can for any responsibility that is given to me. Full stop.
Did your father ever prod you towards, doing a stint in government service? Did he?
No, on the contrary, he was still alive when I was offered to be a judge.
What did he say? When you
He
told him?
said to me, Zaki, when I became a judge, judges are very well respected. Why? Because at that time, there were only 7 or 8 High Court judges throughout the country. And you know who went and invited me to become a judge? No less than the Deputy Prime Minister Tun Abdul Razak. Went to see him when he was a State Secretary in Kedah to offer him to offer him to become a judge. But now there's so many judges already, 100, 200, 150 judges already. I went to see Justice K.C. Vora, who was my boss in the Attorney General, and asked, I call him Mr. Vora. Mr. Vora, should I become a judge? And then he said, yes, of course. And then he showed me his pay slip. I said, no, that's not enough for me to pay my son's education. That's not enough to pay my son's education. I said, so I turned down. At that time, the salary was 11,000 or something. That time, that was, I can't remember the year now. I think I better tell this story now. You can edit later.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So I had a heart attack in the year 2000.
You had a heart attack?
Yes.
Oh.
Heart attack in the year 2011 in June, May or June 2011.
Okay.
And fortunately, my bodyguard drove me to the hospital quickly, and my heart stopped while I was lying on the examination table. So when I became conscious again, as usual, what are you doing to me? The doctor said, your heart stopped. Because they were pumping my. It seemed they had done the fibrosis to start again, and they were pumping. So after that, I went back and I had to rest for 1 month. Many judges come and say hello to me. And you know what I told them? Don't make this an excuse for you not to work. I had a heart attack because I didn't look after myself. I used to go to the doctor to have myself examined on stress gas every year. But the last 5 years since I became a judge, I did not do that. Don't make an excuse not to work. So I don't want judges to come and say, oh, I can work too hard because I may have a heart attack.
Tun, after all is said and done, you wanted to study economics as a young boy. Are there any regrets?
No, definitely not. Assuming I had taken economics, assuming I had been a very successful man, I would be a CEO of a company, maybe making more money, maybe become a Tan Sri, but nothing like where I am now. I'm so ever grateful to Allah for giving birth. Every day I say thank you, thank you, thank you.
The path was made clear with a purpose, wasn't it?
Alhamdulillah. I never dreamed to become the Chief Justice of Dubai International Financial Center at all. Never. I was a judge of the Dubai International Financial Center since 2013, but only a judge.
Is there any difference being a Chief Justice of Malaysia? We have the civil courts here, the Sharia courts here. Is it different than being Chief Justice in Dubai?
The Dubai International Financial Center Court is a commercial court. They deal only with commercial cases. They deal with cases that involve disputes within the Dubai International Financial Center. Is a 2 km square area created by the government of Dubai to attract foreign business to come to Dubai. So activities within that 2 kilometers is governed by English common law. They import the law from England into Dubai International Financial Center. That's one. Secondly, parties can opt. Parties to any agreement can agree that if there is any dispute, they will go to the Dubai International Financial Center courts.
Okay.
So that is the only reason. This is a foresight of the emir, the previous emir of the Dubai, because we were attracting businessmen to Dubai, but Dubai is governed by Islamic law, by civil law system, and by Islamic law. So business people are not familiar with Islamic law. So they say, okay, you do business in this area, it will be governed by the English common law, and we've been getting good response.
Yeah.
And after that, Abu Dhabi followed us, and then Kazakhstan also followed us, and Qatar also followed us.
That's good.
So now we got 3 competitors to fight against. But it's good.
Now, Tun, I'd like to circle back to that time when you fell sick and you mentioned that shouldn't be an excuse for judges not to work. Now, during your time in office, Tun, you were known to put in place judicial reforms that are said to have cleared 70 to 80% of backlog cases. You were extremely strict on a no postponement policy. Tell us a little bit about that and why you did that in the first place. What was the rationale behind it?
Yes. I was practicing for 22 years. And I was going to court. I was practicing as a litigation lawyer, going to court for 22 years. And it's most irritating to prepare a case, spending time up to maybe 12, 1 o'clock the night before, to go to court the next day, only to be told your case is not going on. That's one.
And that used to happen often.
Very, very, very often. A. B. You go to court, the judge will hear the case for 2 hours and postpone the case. And the next postponement date is maybe 2 or 3 months later. And when you go back to the court 2 or 3 months later, the judge has forgotten about the case. And it goes on and on and on. And cases take what? 5, 6, 7, 8, up to 15, 20 years. I got the statistics. We got cases beyond. I took over in 2008. We got cases earlier than 2000, still not disposed. There are 1 or 2, but they're still not disposed. So I said, this cannot be. I mean, you have to clear, you know. Yeah. I mean, there is not justice. Yeah. It's not justice for the case to be dragging on. Not justice to the accused person, not justice to the witnesses, not justice to the lender. Maybe the borrowers may want to delay, I do not know, but some borrowers who can prove cases against them is not strong or good, want the case to be disposed quickly. Everybody wants the case to be disposed. The only parties who like cases to be postponed are the lawyers. Why? The longer the case takes, the more they earn.
The more they bill. The billing.
The more bill. They keep on billing. Every time they go to court, they bill the client. Every time they go to court, they bill the client. So that's not right. You know. When I was interviewed by Bernama, I was asked what are the things that the judiciary requires to be improved. I said two things. One is backlog of cases, slow disposal of cases. That's one. Second one is the image, the image of the judiciary since few years before that. Those are the two things I have to take care of. As far as that disposal of cases are concerned, the statistics show. As far as the image of the judiciary is concerned, my response today is during my time, that was in 2008 to 2011, there were hardly any complaints about the judiciary being corrupt or being influenced by the executive. There were no issues about that. So I assume I've achieved that as well.
When you put this reform in place, were there parties that were against it? Were there any pressures?
At the beginning, there were. Because lawyers were not used to working hard. When I was the president of the Court of Appeal, my predecessor, Tun Hamid, and I were talking about computerizing the system of the court. And he said to me, Zaki, I do not know anything about this computer. You go and handle it. So what I did was, I went to the High Court at Kuala Lumpur at 2:15 p.m. All the courts were closed. The courtrooms were closed. Only 2 courts were sitting, and there were magistrates' court doing mention cases. Everybody was. One guard was sleeping in his room, police guard. And then, and I'm told this is the common practice. In the afternoon, nobody sits. I mean, if the court doesn't sit to hear cases, how can you dispose of cases? Lawyers will find excuses to have the case postponed, unless it is settled or the client pleads guilty or something like that. So, and I said, at 1 o'clock, the lawyers go back to the office and do their own work. So how can cases move? One day, I was going to the statistics, and I was going to the daily report that I get from the magistrates and the sessions court. And I realized the number of cases being postponed is something like every day, 3/4 of the case don't move. Although the case is fixed for hearing, it doesn't move. It's postponed. So the problem is the postponement of cases. I took upon myself to immediately call my officer, dictated the no postponement and I signed myself. I believe in the history of the courts of Malaysia, that is the only practice direction that was signed by the Chief Justice personally, with an instruction to post this on every notice board at every court. Case shall not be postponed except in special circumstances. It's just a one-page instruction. And I believe you go to some of the courts now, that notice is still stuck on the notice. That's how. But after a lot of hoo-ha, a lot of complaints, a lot of objections from the lawyers say they fall sick, judges fall sick. No, they take 1 or 2 extreme cases and say that the cause is the courts are moving too fast. But generally speaking, the lawyers were happy, banks were happy, accused were happy, the public generally was happy. Actually, I introduced this even when I was the president of the Court of Appeal. For about only 8 months, I was president of the Court of Appeal. I introduced this, no postponement basis, disposal of cases. A lawyer friend of mine said, at that time I was Tun Zaki. Tun Zaki, I've never made so much money. Why? All my files were closed. And I made so much money, and the taxman also made a lot of money from me.
So it's ironic, isn't it? Because the lawyers at that time were up in arms against it because they thought that they weren't going to bill enough. But they didn't know, or they didn't realize that with the efficiency or the streamline of operations, they would also be making the same amount of money or even more.
No. Why? Because every time they close a file, they can take another one.
Yeah.
Instead of taking 3 years,
And then
if
drag
they
it
say
on.
post in 3 months, they can take a next file. It's only lawyers who don't want to work, who are lazy, will complain. But generally speaking, I think the public, the commercial people determines whether speed in disposing of cases is an important issue. And that's the same at the Dubai International Financial Center courts. The reason, among others, they set up this court is under the common law system, cases move faster than under the civil law system. There's common law, there's civil law. It's a bit slower, a bit more technical. That's one of the reasons.
I see. Now, was that the same time that you simultaneously introduced the e-court system that you
Yes.
talk about quite lengthily in your book, No Nonsense?
The computer system took about a year to be implemented. The reason is we had to test the system, and then we had to make sure the system works. Again, when we wanted to introduce the computer system to the courts, I told the administration to invite companies who are interested to participate. And I'm not going to identify the companies. The company is identified by the Ministry of Finance. Who do you want to invite? And I want the system to be tested first before we even talk about which system to take. So they invited 4 companies. We gave each company one courtroom, cases in one courtroom, and gave them 3 months. And during these 3 months, the users will look at the system and see whether they can deliver or not. Out of the 4, 2 totally failed because they were still writing the program as we went along. And one of the 2 was a company that somebody was very interested to give. I said no. Until the last moment, I told the Chief Registrar, no. There are two left. Out of the 2, one was a Singapore company, one was a system, American system that they imported from Kentucky. This was by Formis. So between the 2, we took the cheaper one, which was 10 million cheaper than the other system. So it cost about 190 odd million, 100 million I think, or 100 million, I don't know. That part of it, I don't get involved. Administration, I got involved. I just want a system that works. Because if I have a system that don't work, then things will fall on my head.
Are we still using the same system right now?
Improved system.
Improved system.
Formis continue, they have improved the system, and I think they're continuing to improve the system. It's a very simple system, basically. The hearing is recorded on the DVD. At the end of the day, a copy of the DVD is given to the parties and they transcribe.
Right.
One of the delays that was caused previously was the judge has to write by hand. And when he writes, he doesn't write everything. He writes what he wants to write. And then he's writing, he's not concentrating on the way the cases are moving.
Never multitask, right?
That's right. So when it's done, when it's recorded, he doesn't have to worry. He can concentrate. He can look at the witnesses. He can look at it. He can keep on taking notes. The system also allows him to type out his notes as they go along.
Right.
It takes only about 1/4 of the time under the computer system recording instead of taking notes by hand. So a case that would take 4 days can be completed in 1 day.
So much more efficient.
Yeah. So, again, there's another thing we must learn this. I didn't introduce the whole of Malaysia. I started with a small number of courts in Kuala Lumpur, only 3 or 4 courts. When it worked, we moved to the other courtrooms. When it worked, we moved to Shah Alam, and then we moved to Penang,
Right.
and then we moved to the other parts of the country. Because if you fail, if we introduce a system and you fail first few days, the whole country will come up to me and say you have a stupid system. But because we work in 1 or 2 courts first, we tweak and turn and make it work well, then we went on to the other courts and the other courts and the other courts. By the time we went Penang, one of the courts or one of the states that protested very strongly against me, was Penang.
What was that?
Penang was a bit political too. Penang was under DAP. So they were trying to find ways and means to show that the BN government at that time are not doing the right thing. But when we introduced the system in Kuala Lumpur and it worked well, I went to Penang and said, hey, it works well in Kuala Lumpur. Why shouldn't it work well with you? And I look at the statistics in Penang. They had 8 judges, I think, 8 judges. And one of the, you can see this from the statistics, there was a year, in June and July of that year, it was 0 disposal. 0 disposal for June and July of that year with 8 judges. When I reduced the judges, introduced the system, the disposal rate went up to 16 per month. So, I mean, at first they were, and whenever there's a problem, we have managing judges at the time. We have managing Tan Sri James Fong was in charge of Penang. Tan Sri Raus was in charge of the KL commercial courts. And then we have different judges looking after different, because I believe I cannot hold everything myself, so I share. And Tan Sri Raus and James Fong, Tun Arifin, who was then a CJM, he took the East Coast. So, and of course, Tan Sri Richard Maranjun is looking after Sabah and Sarawak. They have a different system. I'm talking about West Malaysia only. So, when we did there was a problem in Penang. They wanted to have an EGM to protest. And the bar council, the bar committee of Penang representative came to see me in Putrajaya, and they posed this problem, and they wanted to hold an EGM to protest against my system. And the EGM was supposed to be held at 4 p.m. the following day.
What were the grounds of the protest?
Yeah, because we are rushing through the case. You know, why are you moving too fast? The courts are not efficient. Like that. So I told James, can you do? James took the first flight out of Subang to Penang the next morning, went to the court, found out what's the problem with the system. There was something going not right. I think they were short of staff or something like that. So, and then he met the bar committee of Penang at lunch or noon or something like that. So by 4 o'clock, there was no EGM to be held. The problem is sorted out. And the same thing, the bar committee of Pahang tried to do the same thing. I got a judge in Pahang, called the local bar committee, what's your problem? Let's sort. And then the same thing almost happened in Johor Bahru. I got the local judge, called the bar committee, what's your problem? Let's sit down and solve the problem. So, there were no protests. Because the problem they had is being solved for them. But if you keep on fighting them, nobody will win.
That's right.
I believe in working with the bar. My door was literally open at any time. At that time, the president of the bar was Raghunath. And then Lim Chiwi took over. And then after that, after I left Chris Leong. So we worked very well with the bar. You know, so I put my ears to the ground to hear what's the problem. And we solve the problem as we go along. People ask me, you have a blueprint? I say, I don't have a blueprint. I worked as the problem arises, I solve the problem. But as important were my colleagues, Tun Arifin, Tan Sri Raus, James Fong.
They were part of the reform team.
Yes. We had breakfast, lunch, tea, all the time talking about how to improve.
Constant meetings.
Because I came from outside. I do not know the courts. I do not know how the court is run. So I have to rely on these people. And to them, I say thank you. Thank you. Thank to them for all they have done.
Now, Tun, Malaysia is going through an interesting time right now. But of course, if you ask different parties will give you polarizing views, right, about the new government. What are your views on the new Malaysia?
The new Malaysia is very interesting. As Tun Mahathir rightly said, and I totally agree with him, they never expected to win the election. So they promised a lot of things. To them at that time was, doesn't matter, because we're not going to win the election anyway. So when suddenly they won the election, they had to, implement what they are supposed to have promised. That's one issue. Second issue was, he was working with 3 groups of people whom he doesn't know. DAP, Bersatu, and a few other small, Amanah. They do not know each other. So when he had to form a government, he had just on the spot had to pick up somebody. Of course, he knew Muhyiddin. He knew some of the people who had worked with him before, like Saifuddin Nasution, who is in domestic trade now. He's doing a good job. He's doing a good job, I must confess that. So, but the others, he didn't know. Okay, Lim Guan Ek had some experience. He was running Penang. Some of the ministers had been EXCO members somewhere, so they know a bit about running. But putting a team like this, and the voters, the rakyat, expect them to deliver, it's not possible.
So do you think it's a matter of people being too impatient for results?
Yes. Look, I became a Chief Justice. I took what? First, I was at the President of the Court of Appeal. I learned about how to run the court. And then I became the Chief Justice. I learned. And that is just running the courts. This is running the country. And so I really, really appreciate the problem. But the implication of all that is, there is delay. When there is delay, people are impatient. Business must go on. And because of this delay, business are held back. Decisions are not made.
Yeah. Not made fast enough.
Not made fast enough. Made, and they change their mind. Like the ECRL. First they say no, and then they say yes. So many other projects. First they say no, and then they have to say yes. And they have to say yes, you have to negotiate. It all takes time. But although it is unavoidable, it's not good for the economy of the country. More so when the world itself is facing economic problems at this time. So it's a double whammy for us.
It's a chicken and egg problem at the end of the day, kan? If you were in office today, Tun, what are the changes that you would like to see within the legal system? You've done so much already during your time. But what would you change now if you were in office again today?
When I was Chief Justice, people would complain, the bar again was complaining that the judges are not writing good judgment, they're rushing through. My explanation was, our courts are flooded. There's a flood going on. You want to clear the flood, and then you start polishing your glass, and then start doing the good things. Now let's clear the flood first. So we have already cleared the backlog, most of it. The next stage is to improve the quality of judgment writing, things like that. You have to improve that. I'm sitting with English judges at the DIFC courts. I tell you, the standards are way up, way beyond ours.
What needs to be done to then improve the standards here?
We have to take good people. When I was a CJ, I was also fortunate, I did mention to you earlier, I brought in 11 from the bar. And these were the judges who led the improvement because they move fast. For example, I took 2 judges, experienced commercial practitioners, put them into the commercial court here, and because they know the commercial laws well, they can move fast, and they are all hardworking people. I'm not saying that they are judges, are not, they are, but let's be frank about it. Okay, the judges from the service, meaning they have been deputy public prosecutors, they have been legal advisors, they are good in criminal cases. They are good handling criminal cases, disposing criminal cases. But when it comes to commercial cases, they have to read. They cannot move as fast as the person who's doing the job every day. Right? So, that's the only difference between them. Most of them are hardworking people. So, because of that, those from the private sector can generally do faster, better than those from the civil sector. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying they're no good. It's just that those from the private sector are more experienced in their field than those from the government. And those from the civil service, they become magistrate, they become deputy public prosecutors, they become legal advisors, they become draftsmen. They are generalists, but they're not specialists in any field. But generally, they know matters relating to the state, matters relating to criminal law better than those from the private sector. In England, all the judges come from the bar.
Okay.
So, and they choose the best.
The creme de la creme.
The best. The creme de la creme. De la creme. I mentioned that in one of my judgments. So they are good. They are good. They're good. I mean, the quality is good.
You seem to be very actively involved at that time in enhancing the quality of our talent pool here. Is that why you are very passionate in the area of education for our next generation? What are the initiatives that you're putting in place now and championing to basically grow our talent pool here? The new generation, that is.
I don't know. I have always perhaps wanted to get involved in education. I believe the future of our country or anywhere is education. You set the education tone right, the future is guaranteed. That's how I view it. So fortunately, I was appointed the Chancellor of MMU, Chancellor of MASA, and recently Pro-Chancellor of USIM, and also Chancellor of University in Kedah. I've also been invited to be adjunct professors at certain law faculties to go and speak to the students from time to time, which I enjoy doing. Actually, I enjoy doing. I don't teach them the law. I speak about to the students, to the law students, I speak about the practical implementation of the law, the practice part of it, not the law. I tell them, the teachers will teach you the law. I will tell you how to use that law when you do your work. So those are the things that I would like to do. And after that, I was also made chairman of University Malaysia Sabah. Again, university. So somehow or other, I don't know, it's against God's will. I'm somehow related to a lot about education. And I speak to students, I speak to secondary students, I speak to primary students, I speak to secondary students, I speak to undergraduates, I speak to postgraduates, I speak internationally, I speak locally, everywhere. So, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy meeting the students.
When you meet the students, you realize that there are so many young girls and boys who want to pursue a career within the legal fraternity. Now, there is always a fine line between the idea of being a lawyer and also the grind that really comes with it. What would your advice be for young girls and boys who want to pursue a career a legal career? What are certain myths that you would like to debunk?
Whether it is legal, medical, or engineering, there's nothing short of hard work. Hard work. I tell graduates of universities, the day the graduation is the day of a new life. And that is the beginning of the new life. You have to continue learning. Law is something that you have to keep on learning. For that matter, engineering, medicine, otherwise you'll be left behind. And I tell grad students that they should go into litigation for at least 3 to 5 years, because it is in litigation that you learn the law. Because you have to keep on reading. Some want to become convincing lawyers. Convincing lawyer is not law. It can be done by the clerk to prepare the document you just sign. You don't learn. Whereas litigation, every time you got a case, you have to read. And I must confess that every time I go to court over any case, I have butterflies in my stomach. And it's like sitting for an exam. You have to prepare. You cannot just walk in and then hope to win a case. You have to prepare your case, no matter how simple it is. Even there's a simple traffic accident case, you need to prepare. You need to interview your witnesses. You need to read the law. You need to think how to handle it. So you are not at it, and reading, there is no shortage of. You have to do your reading. Read and read and read. If you don't want to read, don't become a lawyer. Every time you win the case, you know, you feel success. You have achieved a success. You know, and don't blame the judge if you lose a case. Some lawyers would tell the client, "Stupid judge, do not know the law, all sorts of things," because they lose the case. One party must win, one party must lose. So you do your best, but hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work. When I moved from Ministry of Home Affairs to become a practitioner with Rashid and Lee, I was moving from government type of law, administrative law, to commercial law. I have to learn the National Land Code. I have to learn the Companies Act. I have to learn the agreement. I have to learn also the practical side of it. And then 2 years later, I started doing litigation, because the UMNO illegal, the case where UMNO was declared illegal, That case was passed to me by my partner Zaid Ibrahim, and I had to do, and I had to start reading again. And I confess, I sent my son to school from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 at night. I am in the office reading and reading and reading.
So would you say that the most important trait is the appetite to want to constantly learn?
Yes, yes. And that applies to everybody. If you're a professor lecturing, you have to keep up to date. You cannot keep on teaching the students what you learned last year. You have to keep on reading. That knowledge is passed on to your student. If you're hoping to teach what you learned last year, then you're not improving. And same with the teachers. There's no shortcut. You have to keep on improving. You keep on improving. The world is moving so fast now. You don't catch up, you are left behind. Take for example, people were talking about AI. What is AI? I did a lot of reading to understand what is AI. You know, and data. What is this data? Data talk. Again, I had to read to understand what is data is all about. What is digital? Again, read what is digital. Then I understand. So there's no shortcut to reading, and I'm still reading all the time. I'm reading all sorts of books.
What's your current read?
I'm reading about the life of Sayyidina Umar. He is the third caliph. The first is Prophet Muhammad, Abu Bakar is the third. After Prophet Muhammad, Abu Bakar, I'm reading his biography. And yesterday I was driving back from Kuala Kangsar. On the way, I turned on the light. It was 1 a.m. in the morning. I was reading it. I carry the book on the plane. I read everywhere I read.
In 1 or 2 lines, Tun, tell us your life philosophy.
Life philosophy? Work hard, do your best. Whenever somebody asks you to do something, do your best. Do your best. Don't take anything easy. Firstly. Secondly, if you are in the private sector or with the government, put yourself in the position of the other party. If you are clerk, put yourself in the position of the person, the other side of the counter, who has come to see you. How would you like to be handled or to be serviced if you are on the other side of the counter? If you are a supplier of goods, put yourself in the position of the person who is using your goods. What would he want? What would you like to be? Only then you will understand the difficulty people are facing. Because otherwise, you sit on the high chair and don't know what's going down. And that is why, among other things I did when I was a Chief Justice, was go to the ground and see for myself what is happening on the ground. People are queuing at the counter, judges come late, clerks open the counter late. Now, the people who want service from you will be wondering what's happening. And if you are the person who is coming to the counter, you want the counter to be open on time. If that is so, why don't you do it if you are the other side of the counter? Don't ask people to be patient. What are you rushing about? You go to the hospital, you want to be treated early. You want to see the doctor early. You buy a car, you want the car to be registered early and delivered. So if you are working in JPJ, you should have the car delivered early. Because if you are the buyer of the car, you want the car early. As simple as that.
Now, folks, you've heard it all from Tun Zaki. Hard work, empathy, and always doing your best. Now, Tun Zaki is an extremely private person. He does not have Twitter, nor Instagram, nor Facebook. But if you would like to know more about the man himself, please get his book called No Nonsense. For more information on where you can get your hands on this book, you can contact Yayasan University Multimedia. All proceeds will be going to a foundation that Tun Zaki set up, named after your father, Tun Azmi. So it's called the Tun Azmi Foundation, and it was set up, Tun, by yourself for the benefit of improving the legal education in Malaysia.
Yes.
All right? Yeah, so guys, pick up this book. Amazing anecdotes and nuggets of wisdom from Tun Zaki Tun Azmi himself. Thank you guys. Until then, see you another time.